I dreamed about a world without water. The oceans were dry, the lakes, the streams. All the rivers I had canoed were gone, erased. In the half-sleep of waking, my arms desperately paddle to bring me back to water. Where do journeys begin? When you leave? The first time you look at the map? Or when you dream? I'm leaving from our home in Utah, at the edge of the Colorado Plateau, for Mexico, a journey of about 500 miles.
I'll see you in 5 weeks.
I know, I love you.
I've spent my life making films about rivers. Water has always been my companion, but living in Utah for the past 10 years, I've come to realize how quickly it's disappearing. The Colorado River, the mighty Colorado, is drying up. I've decided to canoe the last third of the river to understand and experience why this is happening. Although I've always been a solo traveler, this time it's different. I'm recently married. Claire shares my love of solitude, and she understands why this journey is important to me. I have to walk off the plateau, carrying my gear down small streams too rocky to canoe, until I reach what is known as the Virgin River. To record my journey, I've mounted a camera on the canoe's bow. This is going to be my first time going downstream in water that'll carry me. Oh my God. It is great to be going downriver, paddling downriver. The Colorado River receives its water from hundreds of streams and small rivers like the Virgin, which flows for 80 miles to join the Colorado at Lake Mead, where I'm headed. Here, I may run a few rapids, but nothing like the rivers I've traveled in the Arctic, Siberia, and Africa, where each day, nature threw a new challenge in my path. Paddling a canoe downriver, I feel connected to something larger than myself. Each night, I make a home on its banks.
I grew up on a book called Camping and Woodcraft by Horace Kephart. It was the Bible for people like myself. And it told you how to do everything about woodcraft. And what he said about cooking was it's great when you cooked outside because you could cook it in one pot, eat it out of a pot, and have one utensil that you could clean in the dirt after you were done. And although I haven't adhered to all of his ways, there is a simplicity about camping out. Whew. Oh, we got an early start this morning. Wind at our back. Looks like another nice day. It splits around a little island. I don't know which side has more water in it. I'm hoping the left. Doesn't have to be a lot of water. People don't understand that about canoeing. It just needs an inch or two. Get by.
On other journeys, I've often been hundreds of miles from the nearest person. But that's not the case here. The sound of a motor catches my attention. I walk up from the river where I meet Mr. Bundy selling melons at his farm.
This is what we call a yellow slick, and this is a Bundy melon. You can't buy this anywhere else in the world besides right here, and else somebody saved my seeds, which they're welcome to do. But this melon is a sort of a crossbreed, generation down from what would have been one of the old pioneer melons. This valley's been blessed with water all the time. We haven't had to rely on snow water or rainwater because we've had some big springs that come out in the Arizona Gorge. Those springs produce about 52 second feet of water, and that water has watered this valley for forever. In order to continue to build in Las Vegas, they've required these contractors and developers to have water, buy water, or they won't let you build. And so the water now is basically grew from just a struggle to get it out of the river to water an acre to ground, to where now that acre water that used to water that acre of ground is worth around $80,000 a share.
How many shares do you think have been sold?
Probably close to 1,000 shares.
Did you sell?
No, I didn't. I'm about the only person that I say didn't sell my birthright.
By the time the Colorado enters Lake Mead, it's no longer a river, but one great reservoir after the next. The water they hold feeds downstream farmers and cities like Las Vegas, only 40 miles away.
Lake Mead is a man-made lake. It was made in the early part of the 20th century, mainly with the idea of controlling the floodwaters. And I doubt they had the sense of the growth in population that has staggered people who think about the Southwest. There have been thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who have been moving into the Southwest, in Phoenix and Nevada, particularly Las Vegas, which I'm near now. And the question is, how will they get their water? You can see the white line in the distance behind me, and that's the white line of the bathtub ring around Lake Mead, where the water level has gone down and down and down, so that now it's about 300 to 400 feet lower than it was 20 years ago. And at this rate, some people predict that it will run dry. This is where I'm camping tonight. And it's pretty quiet and beautiful.
Claire wrote me a poem to keep me safe. I said, why don't I write it on the canoe? So I travel inside a circle of her words. When I was a kid, I traveled like a bullet. My legs would carry me anywhere I felt, into any country. My dreams of paddling, traveling, my ambition I'd put it that way. When I was younger, my ambition far outstripped any relationship that I had. Maybe it's part of getting older and maturing. But what means the most to me now is the relationship I have with Claire. It's an extension of my relationship with life. It's an extension of my relationship with the river. But it's the most valuable thing.
Hi there. Got any coffee?
Nope.
Nope.
It's a $10,000 fine and 10 years in jail for you to be inside this.
There is.
Yes.
Did not know that. Well, I won't tell if you don't tell.
Just as long as you get on the outside in buoys, I don't care.
So are you part of the Coast Guard?
Huh?
Are you part of the Coast Guard?
No, I'm the barge superintendent.
Right, nice. Well, thank you for your information.
No problem, sir. Have a good afternoon. Be careful out there.
The water is getting so low they're drilling a straw into the bottom of the lake to suck out every last drop of water they can. This is out in the middle of Lake Mead, headed for an island and Boulder Beach. And although it's very calm and nice, it is hot, stink hot. And every once in a while, a big old motorboat goes by, and they don't seem to have heard the courtesy of the road. They don't. And they go by and leave a big wake. I have a very small canoe on this trip. It's I've just realized that after breakfast I've climbed up here into the shade, but I've also climbed up on the bathtub ring around the Lake Mead. There are shells all the way up here and different layers of where the water used to be. Well, if we're going to Vegas, I'm going to give the canoe and myself a wash. Only 40 miles from Lake Mead, Las Vegas is one of the fastest growing cities in America, with 148,000 hotel rooms visited by 37 million tourists a year. All these people require showers, flush toilets, and a lot of drinking water, not to mention golf courses and swimming pools. And all of this in the middle of a desert. One night is enough. Tomorrow I'll meet the woman responsible for getting water for Vegas. Pat Mulroy met me by Lake Mead. She is the general manager of both the Las Vegas Valley Water District and the Southern Nevada Water Authority. And what do you like about it? What's the best part of it?
Well, it certainly hasn't been boring over the last 21 years, I'll say that much. We spent the better part of the 90s looking for ways to relax some of the rigidity in the law of the river to allow Southern Nevada to access additional water, which we were successful in doing in 1999. The minute that agreement was signed, the drought began. And it has persisted for 11 years, and it's been quite a daunting challenge. We've watched Lake Mead drop from 1220 down to 1083, where it sits today. And there doesn't seem to be any relief in sight, at least in the short term.
There's a lot of talk about the global warming. There's a lot of talk about oil. Where would you rank water in comparison to the two?
It's the silent threat that we have not fully grasped as a culture yet. We still go to the tap in the morning, we turn the shower on, the water comes out. We're busy, we're struggling with the effects of the economy right now, but silently the threat of losing our water resources or contaminating our water resources, be it through natural causes or through man-made spills, is becoming ever pronounced. This planet is going to have somewhere between 9 and 13 billion people on it come 2050. That's an inordinate amount of human beings. For them to have an ample food supply and for them to have adequate drinking water, it's going to take some changes in the way we deal with our water resources.
After talking to Pat, I paddled toward Hoover Dam under that ominous white ring. John Wesley Powell, the first man down the Colorado, one-armed general, went on in his life after that journey, magnificent journey. I mean, talk about people who've done adventures. What I'd do is nothing. I'd be an ant compared to the elephant of someone like John Wesley Powell. But he said there is no water in the deserts out here. He said give the opportunity to individuals, but don't try to regulate their water. Don't try to build dams. Don't try to grow big businesses. And it's like he laid out the map of exactly what happened and exactly what people did. We didn't heed Powell's warning. From Lake Mead to Mexico, we've built 5 major dams to sustain development. Agriculture consumes 70% of the river's water. The rest flows to 4 major cities, providing water for 30 million people, a population Powell could never have imagined. When Hoover Dam was completed in 1935, it was considered the 8th wonder of the world. The way past the dam with a canoe is to catch a bus ride with a river guiding company. While we're getting loaded, there are a lot of people coming into the river here, and they go about 10 miles down to a place called Willow Beach. And it's just great to be near the water, almost in the water, and back to my own life, and leaving Las Vegas over that canyon rim.
All right, guys, have a good trip.
Thanks. I'm in a portion of the river now called Black Canyon, below the Hoover Dam. And it's great to be inside a very dark, walled canyon. I only see the sun from like 10 to 2. Tying the canoe up, I picked up a rock, and underneath it I disturbed 3 spiders, and next door a lizard ran out from their shade. It's that kind of day. Claire. I spent the morning gathering shells. Then I started tearing paper the way I do to make a collage. The torn paper became a thirsty bird in the desert. The shells became raindrops, as if the bird could create rain just by singing for it. My love of nature started when I was about 6. Our father moved our family to a small town near the ocean north of Boston. And I had a room on the second floor. And on the first June night, I heard a noise come through the window. Something I'd never heard before, and it was going, whippoorwill, whippoorwill, whippoorwill. I had no idea it was a male whippoorwill looking for a mate. To me, it seemed like this was night itself, calling. And I went to the window and put up the screen and leaned my forearm on the sill and felt the cool night dew. And I just was enraptured by this call. The sliding door to the porch opened and my father stepped out. I could see the top of his bald head and hear the rattle of ice in his drink. And he yelled at the bird at the top of his voice, "Shut up!" But the bird didn't. And he went back inside and he came back out with a double-barreled shotgun and he put 2 loads in the gun and fired it off into the night. Boom, boom. And I ducked below the window and crawled back to bed, and yes, the bird did stop. But shortly thereafter, while I was lying in bed, it started to call again. Whippoorwill, whippoorwill, whippoorwill. There's much too strong a wind to paddle around these corners, so I've ducked inside this little bay and I'm going to wait it out. The bank used to be underwater, but now is covered in dead river weeds. Yes, here we are. This white cliff marks the end of the mountains. I can see that it flattens out beyond and the mountains have moved back to 7th row, way back. The river's broadened out and it's windy ahead of me. It's easy to forget that 100 yards in from the river, it's desert, dry and baked. Before I left home, Claire gave me this, and she said she didn't want me to come back like a dried out lizard. And she said it's face pack. That's what it's called. Whoa. And she said, put it on all over your face. And leave it on. 20 minutes, half an hour. And then your face won't get so dried out. So that's Davis Dam at the end of windy Lake Mojave. And I'm glad to see another dam behind me. Well, I'm camped at a civilized campsite today. And took me a long time to get a ride around the Davis Dam last night. But the river is small again, and I'm not dealing with all that wind. And that's really nice. And the bugs like it in my water. And ahead of me is the Laughlin Strip. Casinos, lots of casinos. More opportunity to lose the little one has. It's just to show how big he is. Below Davis Dam, the Laughlin Strip is lined with hotels and casinos, the first I've seen since Las Vegas. You waiting for a ride? I'm afraid my canoe's a little bit too small. My first time that I saw Claire, I didn't see her. I heard her. I was stopped by this voice, this beautiful, feminine English voice. And as I listened, she read a poem about a seagull that would have been wounded that she found. At the end of the poem, what they call the volta, the turn, is that she took the seagull into the bushes and crushed its skull. And I said, now that's a woman that has more in her than a lot of people were writing about their bad relationships with their family, their sexual problems, their this is and that, the sort of victim stuff. And it was great that she was writing something different. So hard to catch nature shots. Come on, focus on it. I hadn't expected to find beavers on the Colorado. Just when I need a campsite, a mirage appears. A luxury resort on the banks of the Colorado. They have a brand new pool, 2 waterfalls, and plenty of palm trees. A fully watered oasis in the middle of the desert. Oh, God. Well, it was worth it to have a shower and have a meal I didn't have to cook myself. I don't know quite how I'm going to hold the camera and get the canoe off my back. Oh, but then there's been a lot of things I didn't know I was going to be doing. Okay. Halfway between Davis Dam and Parker Dam, Topak Gorge begins right under the Interstate 40 highway bridge.
Don't see many canoes. Is that your canoe?
Yeah.
It's a lovely canoe.
Thank you.
I wish you good luck. You caught anything?
Yeah, I caught one catfish.
What do you hope to catch?
Catfish?
Catfish.
Mind catching a stripe?
In Topak Gorge, I take the day off. Read the day's news in sand, water lines, and bird tracks. All the molecules of water that make up the Colorado River have come from so many different places. They came out of Cave Valley, carrying that little red dust from those red rocks. They've come out of Colorado. They've come out of all these different places. And when we drink that water, we're drinking a lot of the earth, aren't we?
It's one of the oldest creatures in the world. Holy mackerel, I picked him up. I cannot believe I'm holding a scorpion. Whoa!
At the end of Topak Gorge, I meet a couple interested in taking my picture.
No, I don't mind. You mind?
No, I don't. I'm so thankful.
How far am I from that island with London Bridge on it?
Probably 8 to 10 miles.
Really? I didn't think it was that far.
It might not be that far.
Want
I
to give
could
me
be
a
wrong.
ride?
How can we do that?
Topak Gorge opens onto Lake Havasu, another reservoir, 40 miles long and 20 miles wide, created by the Parker Dam at the south end of the lake. A sight to see, an actual bridge from London in Nevada.
There it is.
Hoping to attract tourists, an eccentric American millionaire bought the bridge and reassembled it in Havasu.
The bridge was brought out here block by block, numbered individually. I'm not sure if you can kind of see them anymore, but
you still can.
you can
130, 120.
each block was numbered. Yes, they did have some spare blocks for souvenirs.
It is a cool bridge.
Well, this is so nice. I cannot tell you how grateful I am. I'd have been paddling all night to get here.
I resupplied in Havasu. After 2 days, I gave up waiting for the wind to die and took a taxi around the lake to Parker Dam.
Yesterday when I was giving you a ride, I didn't think I was gonna see you again, and I think like everything happens for a reason, and I saw your poetry on your canoe, so I started writing poetry this morning. The road was once dirt, but now paved, signs leading the way we once never thought would be. So think of a jumping upside down dolphin, for it happens when you're around. I wrote it for my wife, so she will read it when I get home.
And there was a young poet named George Starbuck. And he was being interviewed once, and the interviewer said, "Well, when did you become a poet?"
And he looked at the interview and he said, no, no, that's not the right question. The right question is, when did you stop being a poet? I watch the grasses under the water just doing their graceful side to side. Sometimes Claire will just go out to the fence line and dance. Put her iPod on and dance. I asked her what she was doing once. And she looked at me as though I was the most ignorant man in the world. And she said, dancing. Well, she smiled too, and I know it's more than just dancing. I think that's how she keeps in touch with herself. Celebrates life. I guess you'd say this is how I celebrate life. Did it? Paddling a canoe. Today is Halloween, and I don't have much of a costume, but I have something. And I saw it in Havasu, and I spent a little bit of money to buy it. And it fulfills one of the fantasies that I always had. And I thought I'd get an early jump on the day. There, that's part of it, and the other part of it is the glasses. So my fantasy is, what would I be like if I had a lot of hair, having been bald since I was about 30. When I put it on, the girl in the secondhand store said I looked like Howard Stern. I couldn't think of a man I wouldn't want to look like more than Howard Stern. It's a little bass, is that right?
Yeah, huh?
Wow.
Hanging on by a thread there, but yeah. Not many people get them.
And how did you get them?
On a crankbait. I'll get a few of them today. Is that nice?
Yes. And do you eat them or do you let them go?
I let them go back.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's not a bad one here. It's a small one.
You get, how big do they get?
Oh, you can get them 5, 6, 8, 9 pounds.
9 pounds?
This is only like a pound, maybe a pound and a half.
Never imagining the water would disappear, some homeowners built permanent docks that now stick out over the river like parched tongues. I was trying to boil down what my biggest fear was. And I think the biggest fear throughout my life has been losing my freedom. So I've created little boxes so that I could be in them and break free. Playing football was one, where if I was given the ball and I could run through the line and break free and get a touchdown, that was freedom. If I could be in a relationship and then leave it, I was free again. If I could get out of work, save enough money, get to the Arctic, I was free again. But the oddest thing is that now, married to Claire, I feel freer than I've ever felt. Hard to believe that. The Palo Verde Dam was built in 1958 to divert water into irrigation canals that now run through one of the wealthiest farming communities in California. I'd also heard that a meandering portion of the river near here had been cut off, eliminating river access for the small community of Palo Verde. Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
How you doing?
Okay, how are you?
Not too bad.
Great.
Could I get some fresh water?
Absolutely. How much do you need?
Well, I got some empty bottles here. I could bring them up.
Oh, okay.
I meet Gary Niles, who offers to give me a tour of Palo Verde.
This Palo Verde Lagoon that we're on right now, this is an ancient tributary to the Colorado River. And commitments and promises were made years ago to maintain it. The water slowly, the channels are filling in with silt, being invaded by vegetation, and now we can't use it any longer. People are literally landlocked. The whole town of Palo Verde is dying on the vine. The Colorado has been flowing for millions of years, cutting its way through the Grand Canyon. When things get blocked up by vegetation, it may be 20 years later, but it comes through and it cleans it out, and it's done that. It knows how to do that naturally. It's only been since 1935 we began damming up the river. It's going to be a lot of effort up front to restore it back to the way it's supposed to be, and then we want to see a maintenance plan to where my grandchildren and your grandchildren won't have to sue the federal government to do its job.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Rob.
Yeah. For decades, Gary has been fighting an uphill battle. He told me that by ridding the riverbanks of tamarisk, reeds, and arabundo from Palo Verde Dam to the Mexican border, available water would double. Those are sandhill cranes, and there are about 100 of them on a sandbar south of me. I'm so hopeful that I can get close to them tomorrow morning. I wish I could magnify where they are. The last stretch of river before Lake Martinez and Imperial Dam is the end of my solitude. I think it's built into us to strive for a permanent state of happiness or self-improvement. We want to keep growing and improving. I think when I was in my 20s, I never thought about the end of life. I'm willing to think that I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. At Imperial Dam, I have little choice but to leave the river. Here, the water is separated into canals and sent to fields in Arizona and California. I get a ride from the dam to Yuma, Arizona, where I see the Colorado turned into irrigation for mile upon mile of cultivated fields. The river transformed into an endless shower for crops. To feed all of us, including me. All this abundance in the desert. Millions of us sucking the river dry, not wanting to see how the choices we've made and the choices we make every day are destroying the very resource that sustains us. Mexico receives less than 10% of the Colorado's water. I cross the border, but decide not to follow the dwindling river. The Colorado River that used to flow through Mexico to the sea no longer reaches the ocean. As a result, the Colorado Delta, south of the border, once a vast system of wetlands, is now almost dry. Instead of attempting to travel what's left of the river, I decide to take a runoff canal from the fields in Yuma. I'm paddling down the Welton Canal, which is a drainage ditch from the fields in Yuma. And it's salty water that is no good for watering crops anymore, so they shunt it into Mexico. 25 years ago, a farmer named Juan Berton noticed that there was a wetland growing at the end of the canal. And he made it his mission to save that wetland. And now it's huge, and it's become an international focus point for environmental groups and birders. And it's brought life back into a baked desert. That wetland is known as the Ciénaga de Santa Clara. From the canal, I was given a ride to Juan's village, where I met him outside his house. ¿Qué pasa, Juan?
Estoy lavando mi cachucha porque se me llenó de tierra, Robert. Y le estoy dando un baño porque es sábado.
Okay. Juan's grassroots campaign has won him international recognition for his part in helping protect the Ciénaga de Santa Clara.
Cuando descubrí la ciénaga, dije, bueno, esto creo que es algo bueno. Pensé que debíamos de conservar y cuidar ese lugar de tenerlo libre de alguna contaminación por el agua.
Would you show me the Ciénaga this afternoon?
Claro que sí, vamos a ir a verla.
To discover this unexpected wilderness makes my trip worth it. Out of the polluted waters from the Yuma fields, a miracle has emerged. Now larger than Manhattan, the Ciénaga is a thriving ecosystem. 75% of North American birds use it as a stop in their migration, and other species, some of them endangered, call it home. But as the United States' need for water grows, the wastewater released into the Welton Canal may become too toxic to sustain life in the Ciénaga.
Esta es la Ciénaga Santa Clara. Me lleno de alegría y de gozo al ver este lugar. Esto es algo que para mí lo he visto como parte de mi familia. Mi deseo es que busquemos la oportunidad, ellos en Estados Unidos, a conservar este lugar, que veamos que todos, no nomás los humanos, sino que algunas especies de aves, de animales que necesitan el agua, que no le cortemos el agua. Y que más que ellos, es lo que más deseo.
The Colorado was once a wild river. Now, we've tamed it beyond recognition. But the Cienega still stands a chance. Claire, I've paddled as far as I can. To most people, a river is a blue line on the map, or something to cross on the way to somewhere else. I've been honed by rivers, learned their rhythms, listened to the stories they tell. But we've stopped listening. Unwilling to change, we assume the water will always be there just because we need it. I'm reminded of the bird I made on the sand. I didn't know its meaning then, but I see it now. I'm that bird. We're that bird. Hoping that rain will do what we won't.